We started with a quirky British low-budget indie comedy called Time Travel is Dangerous. This is directed by Chris Reading and written... Reading? Is it Reading? Reading? Chris Reading? Is that what they said?
I don't know. I mean, that's what it looks
Reading
like.
or Reading, either way. He co-wrote it with Anna Elizabeth Shakespeare and Hilary Shakespeare. Don't know if there's any relation there to Bill, but, you know, there might be. This is a movie about two women, and their names are, I gotta find them here, where Ruth and Megan, as I kept on saying, Migs, actually is what was her nickname, who find a time traveling machine made out of an old bumper car, and they do what anyone would do in it. They travel back in time to steal things to sell in their vintage secondhand shop. And it's so Ruth and Megan are played by Ruth Surratt and now I gotta find and Megan Stevenson. We had a Q&A with the director and writer, one of the Shakespeares, and the director writer afterwards. And one of the things that's interesting about this movie is Ruth and Megan are played by two random vintage secondhand shopkeepers from London that they met. They knew they'd used on other films for like costumes and stuff. And they're like, these people are really funny. We should put them in a movie. And so they did. This is based on a short they had originally made, and you can kind of tell. But that's the concept. They find a time machine. They take it back in time to steal stuff for their shop. And then they get mixed up in this this inventors society, secret society that where the one of the members is the guy who made the time machine. And there's all sorts of hijinks of time traveling is dangerous and you better watch out what you're doing, and they don't, and then chaos ensues, and it all, the world all kind of blows up for a little bit there. This movie is quirky. It's weird. Like I said, you can tell that it was based on a short, because I'd say like the first 15-20 minutes of this thing are hilarious. And then they hit that point of, okay, where are we going to go from here? And that happens a lot when you have these movies that are based on shorts. I thought it was silly enough and quirky enough to keep me interested. I'm probably going to fall like in the 2.5 star range, probably go about 2 stars. So a mild thumbs down. But I mean, when you have these movies on these microscopic budgets, and you can kind of tell, and then they busted out some decent special effects, which I thought were okay. Like the dinosaur pops up at one point because they go back in time to steal dinosaur eggs. It was decent. It worked. And they have a bunch of cameos from some notable faces. The one I noticed the most was Guy Henry, who pops up in a bunch of different stuff. I recognize him most from John Adams, but I'm probably the only one. The narrator is Stephen Fry. Todd will mention a couple others that he recognized. But yeah, I'm gonna settle on about 2.5 stars for time travel. I keep on adding more to it. You got to stop me when I do that, Todd. Time travel is dangerous. Okay, Todd.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with a lot of what you said. I found it a little bit more difficult to get into. Like the first scene or so was really fun, because I mean, for this movie, I thought immediately this is trying to be a Christopher Guest movie, yeah. but it's British, so the humor is a little bit more aloof and a little bit more difficult to understand.
It's the mockumentary style, like it's like Christopher Guest, The Office, all that kind of stuff, where the cameraman is kind of a character.
Yeah. But I mean, it also does in some ways have the charm of something like Safety Not Guaranteed or whatever. Like a time travel movies for indie movies, I guess, is like a really popular thing. I do enjoy the side characters in this. Jane Horrocks is the one that I recognize, and she's really fun to watch. She plays the aviator, because there's this weird, like almost Deer Hunter like thing where the one character has to go rescue the other character from this like deadly game thing.
And you know what it is? It's Ant-Man. It's Ant-Man having to go into the quantum realm. That's
Yeah,
really what that is.
Yeah, true. The game's pretty weird, and that whole thing. I mean, they definitely have some imagination, and one thing that was interesting in the Q&A is they said that there was almost like there was actually very little improv, which is bizarre considering these are all like notable comedians, and there is so much like back and forth that you think that like, oh, these people are just like living. Well, which I mean, the two people are playing themselves, but apparently this was all scripted, which is strange to write dialogue like that. But it also does that also does lend to the Christopher Guest thing. I'm kind of at 2 stars. I thought it was fine. I did kind of struggle with staying awake in the middle portion. Uh, there were people that there are some actors that I've seen before, like Jane Horrocks and some others that are like Mike Lee actors. Guy Henry is a dead ringer for Mark Rylance, and there's a guy that looks just like Joel McHale. And I think the one lead actress, her name, which one is that? Ruth. Ruth looks just like Lily Gladstone.
Oh yeah, she does.
And but I mean, these characters are fun, and it is entertaining that this is what the director essentially said was stunt casting, but they're all British people, so we don't really know who they are. But it is a quirky movie. I'm not going to really remember this movie necessarily, but yeah. So I'm falling at 2 stars. It was not really the way we should have watched this one last. I think we would have had a lot more fun with it.
It served the purpose of being the perfect double feature partner with Tim Travers. Like if we had watched Tim Travers and Time Travel is Dangerous back to back, that would be like a killer double feature, because it'll just kind of put you in the mood for it. But yeah,
this is a movie you want to watch at 9 at night with a couple drinks or something. Not really something you want to start your day off at noon.
Yeah, but our crowd was into it.
Yeah, they were laughing at basically everything.
Yeah, that's one problem with the crowd, with the film festival crowd, is they're a little too responsive at times,
especially when they know the filmmakers are there.
Yeah, which, surprise, we weren't expecting to see none of them, and we saw all of them. Yeah. So we had Q&As with every film. We didn't stay for the second one because we had to go get some food, but for the most part, we saw all of them. So that's Time Travel is Dangerous. I'm giving it 2.5. Todd's giving it 2. We're kind of in the same spot on that one. Decent, solid movie. Not necessarily. I walked away from this one the same thing I walked away from on Tim Travers. This is why film festivals exist, is for films like this, because they're never going to get seen otherwise. And it gives them an audience. And if that audience catches on enough and you have enough of a following from that audience, it could actually get seen by more people. And without a film festival like this, it's never going to have that. And this was like one of the first times it had been shown in the States. I think the filmmakers said it was the first time, but IMDb said it showed it in Austin.
Yeah, late last year or something. But yeah, I mean, it is British humor. So if you get into British humor, like if you like the one actor's from the IT crowd, and I've seen some of that, and like that takes like several episodes to like get the speed of it. If you're into that kind of thing, then this will be right up your alley.
All right, so there's Time Travel is Dangerous.